that's the trump here.
Yeah, 3 Grim Lavamancer is more than you'd really ever expect out of a Delver deck, and that card is just all sorts of trouble for Elves.
Yeah, this is a very strange field. It's not the kind of field that I'm used to with Legacy Opens. Honestly, Anthony Casella might be the only fair deck left in contention.
I mean, okay, that's, first of all, I was going to say, every other Legacy Open I'm covering, it's like 7 decks in the top of, oh, we have 4 Delver decks, 2 Stone Blades, a Miracle, and a Death and Taxes. And I'm like, all right, you know what I want to see? I want to see, like, well, we got 3 people playing Gristlebrand, another guy's playing Emrakul, this guy's playing all Elves, and the last guy has 0 lands in the entire 75. Like,
and we still have a top 8 left to play out that could look that way. We have Elves still in contention. We have an Infect player that just drew in, and Todd Anderson, and 2 more still in the hunt.
High Tide's in.
The High Tide's in. There are multiple Reanimator decks still in the hunt. There is a Belcher deck and a
0 lands. There we go.
Yeah,
Called that one.
And a Food Chain deck, which we saw last round. Again, still in the hunt at X11. So, yeah, there's going to be some unfair Magic get played. Yeah, for the rest of the night.
If you are a combo player, then you kind of want to see this blue-red Delver deck get knocked out. He's not welcome in your combo top 8.
He's really not, and he's well positioned, I think. We have. I mentioned the removal spells, like the interaction for little creatures that he has. But Anthony also has 3 Spell Pierce, 3 Daze, 4 Force of Will, 4 Stifle, and 3 Spell Snare.
Look at all these annoying blue cards he's playing.
Right?
And he has a clock.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Just the fun police, Anthony Casella.
All right, James is on the play with Elves here. He's going to go ahead and fetch up a Forest. Going to get some kind of 1-mana Elf. He's going to try to get ahead of that tempo that Delver brings. His first Elf is a Quirion Ranger. That's not the best one, but a lot of times in Elves, it just matters that you're making a creature, not really which one it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much impossible not to make a creature on turn 1 with Elves.
It's hard.
Yeah, and Quirion Ranger is, honestly, maybe the worst of the bunch. If you don't have a second land anyway, then it kind of generates mana because you can tap the forest, bounce it, and then replay it. But if you have a second land drop, then this is one of the few 1-drop creatures you can lead with that is not going to be a mana source of some kind or an engine piece. Yeah,
like Nettle Sentinel turn 1 can be pretty low as well. I mean, ideally, you'd always have the Deathrite Shaman or Llanowar Elves if you play any of those.
Just something that makes mana, yeah. Nettle Sentinel, at least Nettle Sentinel attacks for 2.
Yeah.
I like attacking for 2.
And then he breaks and doesn't untap until you...
Again, pretty hard not to have a green spell to cast on turn 2 in the Elf deck as well.
Anthony Casella, you see, fetching for Volcanic Island. He's going to go ahead and Lightning Bolt the Quirion Ranger. There was a little bit of an opportunity cost. You saw him pause there because he also has Forked Bolt in his hand and thinking, hey, this is an X1. I wonder if I wait if I can get 2 creatures. But I think he decides better of it and just wants to be like, okay, let's keep things clear.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's a pretty strong argument for waiting. This is the one matchup where you can very reliably kill 2 things with a Forked Bolt, I think.
Elvish Visionary is the play for James Hess. He's just going to develop his board. Back to Anthony, you see a lot of options here. He has a second land. He can stand still, he can Forked Bolt, he can Delver of Secrets. And a lot of good plays here.
Yeah, so this is not a matchup where it's going to be very easy to play Standstill on an empty board. James does not run out of creatures lightly. So there's an argument actually for just playing the Standstill even against just Elvish Visionary and sitting on Mishra's Factory. But leading with Delver and then sitting on some interaction, I think that probably plays a little better.
Now I'm going to go back to part of what you said there. And this whole open has felt like Legacy from 2 years ago, just coming back. And you're like, well, you can play this Mishra's Factory with Standstill. When have you seen Mishra's Factory in Legacy recently?
Yeah, how good would Mental Misstep be right now?
I mean, that card's very good against Elves, or so I've heard.
And the Mental Misstep era, I think that's the last time that we really saw Standstill be a significant presence in Legacy.
Yeah, well, James is going to try to combo this turn, or at least make a lot of good plays. He plays 2 1-drop Elves, then third one is Heritage Druid, so tapping for 3 green, he's going to make Deathrite Shaman with 2 more green to go, gets another Elvish Visionary. And this is where Elves gets really scary. Now he went from 1 creature to 5.
Well, that Standstill got a lot worse, huh?
It's going to be hard to find a board where you...
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Forked Bolt got better. We definitely
we get our choice of creatures.
Yeah, we definitely get to kill 2 things. I mean, we would like to kill Deathrite Shaman, but barring Deathrite Shaman, we get 2 of them.
You just hope it's not a Gaia's Cradle that James is about to play here.
Cradle? Not a Cradle.
Okay, it's Wooded Foothills. You're still fine. Cradle, and it's like, then there's no stopping him.
Yeah, and significantly no Wirewood Symbiote for James Hess, so he can't actually protect any of his creatures right now.
Delver does not flip that turn. He draws a Scalding Tarn for the turn, so he has Tarn and Factory as his lands. He'll go ahead and play Factory.
And looks like kind of an anemic hand for Anthony. We see the fork bolt, we see the standstill, a duplicate standstill, and then lands. So this is the last of Anthony's interaction.
There would be matchups where the 2x standstill hand would be really good. If he was playing against, say, like the high tide deck, double standstill, great. Yeah, I'm game.
Sure. Well, and I think it would have been fine here. Again, if he just plays standstill and then sits on the Mishra's Factory, I think James doesn't have a choice but to play spells into that.
And that's what he's going to try to do. He forked bolted away the 2 mana producing elves, and then he went ahead and cast standstill here, tapping out for it. He does have Factory in play. He has an unflipped Delver, so it's not. He's not ahead on the board, but he's not behind either. It's probably safe.
This is still going to work out, I think, for him. I think this is still a spot where James has to blow up the standstill eventually.
Yeah.
Now James gets to add another creature there. From our bird's eye view, it's actually kind of hard to tell that that's a creature. That is the From the Vault Realms Dryad Arbor.
It's awesome that they reprinted Dryad Arbor. I wish it didn't look so much like a forest.
I would like to ban this card. not Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor's sweet.
This art of
I would
Dryad
like to
Arbor.
ban this art of Dryad Arbor. Yes, it causes a lot of trouble. For coverage, anyway.
For players too.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's nice that James is playing full art forests so that it's pretty clear to differentiate.
That's fair,
but like
that's fair.
when he's not, then this can get really annoying.
So Cradle comes down, tap for mana, so it looks like we are, yeah, there we go.
It's going to be natural order. You see he had some choices here. He also had, looks like he had a glimpse of nature in his hand. The big question is when you cast Crack into standstill with your spells, does your spell get to resolve? You know, sometimes they draw a force and blue card.
And if it does, and it looks like it does, then
he's dead.
He's dead, right? Yeah, this is. I haven't done the math, but I normally don't even bother at this stage.
Off the cuff, this feels like a lot of damage. And Anthony's scooping up his cards. That Dryad Arbor turned into a Craterhoof Behemoth, and game 1 goes over to James Hess.
Yeah, so didn't quite play out the way that that Anthony would have wanted. Anthony got to interact. He bolted a thing. He fork bolted 2 things, and then died.
Yep.
So yeah, Elves is not a deck that you can interact with simply by shooting down some elves. You've got to interact on the stack as well, or be very proactive, I think.
Yeah, on the draw, I mean, it's interesting because Anthony, he had, like, I would say most of the tools that he'd want against the stack, right? He had his turn 1 hand had Delver, Lightning Bolt, Forked Bolt, and 2 lands in it. Like, he's not going to get too much better than that. Even if he had a Grim Lavamancer, I'm not sure he'd ever would have had time to activate that guy.
I think he would have rather had Lavamancer than the Delver there. I mean, he did actually. Yeah, he had a mana up at one point. And I think he just gets to kind of ease back a little.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he would like to have like Force plus blue card there. If he had forced the natural order, he was probably going to get the game.
Right.
You know, he'd gotten 3 cards off standstill, would have played another one, sat back, developed his board. It would have been fine. But it does show some of the strength of Elves here that James Hess was able to get that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're right. He had the tools that he had were effective in the matchup. I think he just simply didn't have enough of them.
All right, now when we go to sideboard here, I don't know if you got to see James Hess when he played in Elf Mirror, but the card we were all abuzz about in his sideboard is Elder Scale Worm. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is another Elder Scale Worm matchup. If you get this guy in play, I don't know how well Blue-Red Delver can deal with this guy.
I'm not positive on the actual wording of Elder Scale Worm. Does Stifle do anything against it?
No.
No. Okay.
It's like, so what it does is that Elder Scale Worm, when it enters the battlefield, if you're below 7, you go to 7.
Okay.
So if you're at 7, nothing happens.
Sure.
So it heals you up to 7, and then it kind of creates this wall.
Okay. Well, no, you actually could stifle the enters the battlefield trigger if you're already below 7.
And if you do that, then he's going to do nothing.
Right.
But if you can't, okay, so that's actually a fair point. Yeah. But outside of that, then there's a static ability that says, if you're going to go to below 7 due to damage, you go to 7.
And at this point, it works like worship, so you can't stifle that. So yeah, absolutely. If Elder Scale Worm enters the battlefield, the game pretty much ends.
Does Anthony Casella have submerges in his sideboard? That would be an answer for it.
I don't see any. No, he has 2 Grafdigger's Cage, which he'll want to go to those anyway, but those help him keep the Elder Scale Worm from entering play through any means other than simply casting it from his hand. He has Surgical Extraction, which won't help. Karanos, which won't help.
He's got one answer, and he's not going to board it in.
He has Smash to Smithereens, which won't help. Shattering Pulse, Pithing Needle.
Keep going.
Probably board those in, but they're not good. He has 1 Sower of Temptation.
Right. And I'm just not going to board that against Elves.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not excited about Sower at all.
What do you say? I'm going to steal your Craterhoof? That's not really how this combo deck works.
No. 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Red Elemental Blast, and 2 Pyroclasm, excuse me, round things out. Pyroclasm, that's a spicy one, and that is definitely going to going to be a card he's going to want to try and lean on. But no, you're right. Elder Scale Worm is going to cause a lot of trouble.
It will win. I mean, James has, if he can resolve natural order, he wins, which is pretty huge. I guess Anthony he has to assemble 7 points of burn to take it down.
Right. Now, to be fair, the statement you just made, if James resolves natural order, he wins. That's not actually a change from game 1.
Well, like game 1, it could be like if he has no creatures and he resolves a natural order, he probably doesn't win.
Right. Yeah.
Granted, he also has Progenitus in his sideboard, so maybe it just goes to Progenitus instead of Elder Scale Worm.
Either one.
I guess like the idea is Elder Scale Worm you can just cradle into, and Progenitus you have to natural order.
So yeah, I think Elder Scale Worm probably the better of the two. He may board in both just because he wants to avoid accidentally drawing one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, he still has the Crater of Behemoths. Those, in most cases, are going to be good enough.
Yeah.
So, and the trick is, like, he still has to resolve natural order. We didn't see Anthony put up a fight on the stack in game 1. But he's certainly well equipped to do that. He has access to Spell Pierce, Daze, and Force of Will. Now, those taxing counter spells, it's weird because they're not bad against elves exactly. But
well, they have a limited, they have like a lifespan on them. If they're good only early in the game, then they start doing nothing.
Sure, and again, that's true in a lot of situations and in a lot of matchups, but it's especially true against elves. You don't get to pick your spots against Daze, or with Daze against elves.
You usually just Daze the first thing you can Daze.
You Daze their 1-drop, whatever it happens to be.
Because after that, I mean, a lot of decks, they go, okay, 1 mana to 2 to 3 to 4, and elves is like 1 to 3 to 10 to, you're just like, okay. Once it gets to 10, like, your Daze looks pretty bad.
Yeah, especially with if you do not have a Cradle draw, then maybe you're kind of still playing fairish mana-wise. But Cradle in particular Daze it made it not even be a card you want on the draw. Now Anthony's on the play, so I think he still is going to have them. But yeah, again, natural order is of course if natural order resolves, it probably wins the game. Anthony's going to try and keep that from happening.
And even with Daze being not that great of a card, like, you probably can't board it out in this matchup, even when you're on the draw, just because it is interactive, and you need to, like, when the Elves draws are fast, the deck's pretty scary. We did see last time from when James was on camera against Bedsoul, he seems to be quite the veteran with this Elf deck as well. I was very impressed with his play the first time around.
Yeah. I was told on Twitter that James actually has been playing this deck for years and years. So
does not surprise me. Yeah. He played in Elfmere and seemed very comfortable in it.
So yeah, looking at Anthony's sideboard, I think 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, and 2 Needles. Needle's weird. It doesn't turn off mana abilities, so there are a lot of things you would like to turn off that it won't stop, but it does stop Deathrite Shaman.
Yep, not actually a mana ability.
Even Deathrite Shaman's mana-making ability is not technically a mana ability because it does something else. It turns off Wirewood Symbiote.
It has the word target in it, yeah.
Yeah, it turns off Quirion Ranger. So, yeah, enough utility that I think it's still worth bringing in.
It does not stop Heritage Druid or Birchlaw Rangers.
So James, after some deliberation, gonna send it back. Now, we talked about Elder Scale Worm. That's plan A, I think, for James at this point. What else? Is there anything else you think that might... Is this a matchup where he wants to bring in the discard, do you think?
I wouldn't think so, no. I don't want to fight the reactive game. That's what Delver's already trying to do against me. Your plan A is pretty good. We saw, even though Anthony has a lot of removal, that James can just overwhelm it. When he went, last time he had a turn 2 Visionary, and then turn 3 made 4 creatures. Like, yeah, it's really annoying that Anthony has Pyroclasm, and it might even make you a little bit of an underdog post board, but I still think force Anthony to have Pyroclasm now, force him to have Kill Spell now. That's what I still want to be doing.
Okay. And then the one other card in his sideboard that actually draws my attention is Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, Scavenging Ooze seems actually fine. The blue-red Delver deck in particular does not have any ways to deal with a 5/5.
Sure. Now, this particular build does have 2 Dismembers, which is not standard. The other thing it doesn't have, which is also not standard, because most lists do have, is Snapcaster Mage. So, given the information that James has to work with, Ooze might actually look a little better than it is.
Yeah.
But, this deck can make a lot of mana very quickly, so I think that being able to just completely turn off Grim Lavamancer the turn that Ooze enters play, that's helpful.
I am interested that he's playing True Name Nemesis in this build. He doesn't have any equipment or any way to suit it up. He's just playing it as 3/1.
Right. Just kind of like a Sulfuric Vortex U. effect.
Yeah. Latch Seeker.
Trainer is a good card.
No, he's a good card. He's fine.
Play your good cards, right?
He's a burn spell.
Yeah.
All right, we're underway. Anthony Casella, turn 1 on the play, has a Delver. It's exactly where we want to be on the blue-red side of things. Hess will match it with his own 1-drop. His happens to be a Nettle Sentinel. We'll pass back to Casella. There was no days there. See if Delver flips. He can start switching from offense to defense.
And takes a peek. It's not.
Nope.
Yeah, it's not.
It'd be great. What if it was? You know, just wait.
No, yeah.
Ponder. What do you know? Flip him.
I don't want you to know about this one. I'll take it. Tuck it away. As we mentioned in game 1, Nettle Sentinel, of all the 1-drops for James Hess, I kind of jokingly said, like, well, it's not that bad because you get to attack for 2. Attack is sweet. But
I would attack here if he wants to trade both his 1/1s for that Nettle Sentinel. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he gets in his 2 damage, but the big problem is it does not actually make mana on its own. No, it may with this Heritage Druid.
And we might see how much play he has here. So Anthony just kept a 1-lander. He did have draw Grim Lavamancer. And now he's going to go for Heritage Druid. And he played the Gaia's Cradle first before playing Heritage Druid. And I think that was enough to put Anthony in, like, to raise some red flags here. Like, I don't want my opponent on turn 2 to have Gaia's Cradle and Heritage Druid Nettle Sentinel. That is way too close to me dying.
Now, having said that, the Cradle, I think it is just kind of your stock. Like, just go, strong mechanics. You're going to play the Cradle before you cast your spell to get around days, I think, there.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like a tip-off of what James might be up to, other than it's just bad news.
Well, there's also, he didn't swing the Nettle Sentinel before playing Heritage Druid. Kind of showing, like, that's strange, too, right? Like, what? You must really want this guy. Anthony, he does draw a spell to flip his Delver here. Not a land.
Took a peek at a Brainstorm, so that's going to let that Insectile Aberration come out to play.
Yeah, it's going to hit in for 3. Hess is down to 17. Also importantly, Anthony now has 2 cards in the graveyard for his Grim Lavamancer. And you see here, Anthony had the opportunity to main phase Brainstorm to try to find that extra land, but he didn't want to take the risk that he didn't find it. Instead, he's just hoping to leave up this Grim Lavamancer activation in case he has to hit a panic button and stop a combo.
Yeah, I mean, I think activating Grim Lavamancer every chance that you get is going to be a reasonable play here. He's also leaving up Spell Snare, it turns out. So
yeah. Spell Snare takes care of Elvish Visionary. Pretty good. Pretty good on him there. We saw the Dryad Arbor was the play for Hess.
Yeah, and that was a spooky turn for Anthony because James did have enough mana just to cast Natural Order if he had it.
Yep. Insectile Aberration puts Hess down to 14. Lots of kill spells in Anthony's hand, and what discipline on his side to not Brainstorm for the land here.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, again.
I think it's good on. I'm not, but I wouldn't have the discipline. I'd be like, oh, I really want a second land. Second land's so good, and I'd Brainstorm, and then I wouldn't find it and be like, oh, I just lost. That sucks.
Exactly. I think that as good as Brainstorming is, activating Grim Lavamancer is better here.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd hit the land and do both, but like, the problem is that then you're playing with, if you don't hit the land, you lose.
Yeah.
You just tap out main phase and then say go, and then like,
shields down.
Don't kill me.
you don't have anything, do you? Yeah, we're good. We're good.
You only have what 7 mana and like 3 creatures. That's nothing.
I ain't afeared.
All right, Grim Lavamancer was activated here.
I want to reiterate that I just now discovered there's a Dryad Arbor in play. Like I said, this from the Vault Dryad Arbor.
I said it before. It's right. It looks like a forest.
It needs to go. It needs to go. Oh, that's okay. So sacrifice. I assume this is a Natural Order incoming.
And it is a Natural Order.
Did you sacrifice 2 creatures? Did I?
Grimshot one.
Grimshot. Okay. All right.
And here you go. He's going to get Progenitus, and that looks like it's going to be good enough. James Hess up to 7-1. Takes out Anthony Casella, clearing the way for the combo top 8.
Yeah.